unite! Workers of the world, unite! Black, brown, Asian, white, people of the world, unite! Thank you all for coming. My name is Johanna Fernandez. I'm an associate professor of history at Baruch College of the City University of New York. I'm also part of the movement to bring Mumia Abu Jamal home, the imprisoned radio journalist and veteran Black Panther, imprisoned in Pennsylvania right now, part of the Rainbow Coalition, a coalition of white, Black American, Latinx, Asian, and white people coming together in the 60s on the basis of shared class interest. I want to start by saying that this demonstration, the vision for this demonstration, was called by one of the founders of the Young Lords Party in New York, the Puerto Rican counterpart of the Black Panther Party, on the vision that oppressed people, racially oppressed people in the United States, colonized people, are divided by the system, but we share the same interests. I want to just say that there is an increase in this town of anti-Asian violence of 1,900%. There is an increase in America, but in this city in particular, of anti-Asian violence of 1,900%. And at some point, we have to ask ourselves, who are we as a people? Who do we want to be as a people portrayed in history? We are here in the heart of the Dominican community. We're marching to Harlem, we're marching to East Harlem, and we're here to say that an injury to one is an injury to all. An injury to one is an injury to all. And not too long ago, we had a person in the White House who was blaming China and the Chinese for the coronavirus and spewing anti-Asian hate, spewing white supremacy, and jingoism in this country, and that is what we have to blame. We have to blame the apparatus of power in this country that has deployed white supremacy the world over, in places like Vietnam, in places like Japan, in places like the Philippines, but also in the Dominican Republic, but also in Puerto Rico and around the country. Imperialism and the racism it sowed across the world is what is ultimately to blame for the anti-Asian violence we see in this town. Alongside anti-Asian violence, we see anti-Black violence, violence against immigrants from Latin America and Mexicans. And ultimately, there is a system of capitalism at the bottom and foundation of all of this racism and white supremacy. And we're here because together we are determined to build a new world. We are coming together to build a new world and to usher in a new day. So thank you everyone for coming. We're going to start off with a bang. There is a big coalition of folks, by the way, who've brought us together, who've done the work. We've got comics on the issue to educate people on anti-Asian violence and the presence of Chinese and other Asian people in this town and across the country. And that's comics produced by Mayday Space. So check it out. A lot of different organizations coming together in this effort. But I want to start with a good friend and comrade, always in the struggle, hip-hop artist who stands with working people in New York, in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, and Queens. in Staten Island, representing for the city, straight from Harlem, Immortal Technique.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I appreciate everybody who came out here today. Let me grab this microphone because I'm good at that. No, it's all right. I'm a professional. I've done this thousands and thousands of times. I just want to say something very important. There are a lot of stereotypes that unfortunately, not just people in general, but Black and Latino people have consumed about Asians. One, that they're all rich. And that's actually a lie. The vast majority of Asian people that live in New York City live well below the poverty line. We are connected not just by imperialism, but also by the class struggle that we have when people come to this country. So stop telling lies. The other lie that I see in the news is that the media is making this out to be a struggle between Black and Latino people and Asian people. And let me remind you of something. Black and Latino people have never had a war with any Asian country to sell them opium. We have never dropped a nuclear weapon on them. We have never had secret bombing runs in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Do you understand? We have never had a war that consumed millions of people's lives in Korea. Okay, we were placed in the same unfortunate low-income circumstances and without access to proper health care. And these are the struggles that we're united by. And don't be triggered by the media into believing they all hate us. They want to pit us against each other because the best way to deal with something in a classist society is to hire one half of the poor to fight against the other half. And we are tired of being suckered into that game. I don't have much more to say. Someone asked me if I would do a poem. So here's a poem. God bless y'all. I'm from Harlem, New York. I love y'all. Check it out. And don't go home alone. If you're in the march, just remember, thank you for reminding me of that. Go with a partner, hang out with somebody, a friend, whoever, somebody from your neighborhood. Don't get caught out there alone. They like to harass stragglers. So I'll check it out. They got a new housing plan for the ghetto eventually. Projects for a new American century. False flag terrorism controlling you mentally. The gospel in the hands of people with no empathy. A mixture of dangerous social chemistry between law enforcement and a military entity. Cameras on the corner of every corner you facing. Testing out a future Gestapo on immigration. Power, consolidation, information restricted. Just like the iron law of oligarchy predicted. Incarcerating the poor among the drug addicted. But not the families of the ruling class that's afflicted. Cause it's a fucking caste system like corrupted Hinduism. I've been through the system, I've been through religion. I carried the cross as a Christian like it was anti-disestablishmentarianism until the seeds of despotism arrested my vision. Lyricism with cynicism and syllogisms until they Pedro Albi Campos and kill me in prison. Chemtrail conditions, stem cells of Leo Strauss's philosophy, the birth of neocon policy. But I laugh at America's fear of a new world order controlling the hemisphere because my people been living that shit for the past 500 years. I love y'all. Thank you very much for coming. And remember, we have to confront the racism in our own community. Latino people, mi gente indígena, la gente que viene Latinx, como cualquiera manera que te quieran referir. No podemos llamar a toda gente que son de China o de Corea o de Japón chinitos. Ese es racista. Es una manera de ser que nosotros tenemos en la cultura que tiene que cambiar. Nosotros no podemos volvernos como la gente que odia a otra gente. Nosotros somos inmigrantes y entienden lo que es trabajar bien duro y todavía tener la gente que te odia. I love you all. Don't fall for the okie doke. Peace.
Okay, thank you. Let's give it up for Immortal Technique. The hip-hop artist with a slamming analysis of the problems in society. I want to call out the New York State Nurses Association, which is representing here. They're going to lead the march. And we got a former young lord at the helm of that organization, Minerva Soya, who's remained in the streets fighting for the working people of this town. Thank you, Minerva. We got 1199 in the house too. And DC 37. All right, the next person that we're gonna hear from is Diana who, Diana? Is it Diana? How?
It's Ho.
It's Ho. Diana Ho. Okay. So Diana was one of the folks who drafted the kick-ass statement that informs the framework, the political framework of this march and this gathering. An enormous amount of love and work went into, and struggle, because we fought about what was going to go in the statement. And I just want to say what we know, that Asian people are a diverse people in the world and in New York. And the majority of Asian people are working people in this town, poor people living under the poverty wage. We also have to remember that the United States dropped more bombs in Vietnam that were dropped by all sides combined during World War II. In the 1960s, the United States dropped more bombs on Vietnam than were dropped by all sides combined during World War II. And as a result of that, we get a mass migration of Vietnamese people to New York City, many of whom live in the Bronx. So Vietnamese people, Asian people from all over Asia are oppressed people. Their parents are here because they were forced out of their countries by U.S. imperialism and U.S. political and economic power abroad. Diana has done an enormous amount of work. She's a comrade and a friend, and she's going to talk to us more about the history of anti-Asian violence in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Johanna. I am so honored to be out here with you all today. I'm going to read the statement that we wrote to ground us in why we're out here today, why we braved this weather to be out here. Today, April 25th, we march in solidarity with Asian lives. We are a multiracial and intergenerational coalition, and we demand an end to white supremacy, imperialism, and misogyny, the root causes of anti-Asian violence. We seek to highlight the common struggles of Latinx, Indigenous, Black, Asian, and white people across New York City to unite in the ongoing fight against racial capitalism and the carceral systems that uphold it. In New York City, violence against Asians and Pacific Islanders has risen 1,900% over the course of the pandemic. Attacks against API people today are in large part a product of U.S. imperial competition with China and the blaming of China for the COVID-19 pandemic. But anti-Asian violence has a long history, linked to the super-exploitation of Chinese labor to build the U.S. railroad in the late 1800s. It has been reinforced by the exclusion of Asians from the concept of America, anti-communism, and the placement of Japanese Americans and their immigrant families in U.S. concentration camps in World War II. We stand united against U.S. imperialism. Millions of our Asian, African, Caribbean, and Latin American immigrant parents are here in the first place because of U.S. military intervention. Anti-Asian violence in the U.S. is an extension of the savagery of U.S. imperialism in the Philippines, Vietnam, Korea, and elsewhere in Asia. Colonizer countries must dehumanize those whose labor and resources they seek to conquer. War is the colonizer's vehicle. And just as a people's sovereignty is violated, soldiers seek to conquer women, girls, and femmes through rape. The dehumanization of Asian women, girls, and femmes as exoticized sexual objects is an outgrowth of U.S. warmongering. Under distinct but related conditions, Black women, girls, and femmes were raped during their enslavement in this country. U.S. imperialism today continues in Puerto Rico and in countries like the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Guatemala. Some examples are the U.S.-backed coup in Bolivia, inhumane economic sanctions against Venezuela and Cuba, and the mass displacement of small farmers in Mexico and beyond. Though our histories are distinct, we share the experience of mass trauma and displacement that U.S. military and economic aggression has produced globally. We reject carceral responses to recent attacks. The U.S. government is using the Atlanta shootings to justify the expansion of police power. But the police exist to protect private property and originally functioned to catch escaped slaves. As agents of white supremacy, police will never safeguard Black, brown, Indigenous, and Asian communities. Yeah. The carceral state props up a global system of racial capitalism through artificial borders, cages of detention, and a culture of control and repression. We must work to create real safety in our communities and foster a belief in the sanctity of life. We reject, too, the detention of border crossers everywhere, knowing that the Page Act and the Chinese Exclusion Act in the late 19th century set the mold for contemporary U.S. anti-immigrant policy. We stand united across race, ethnicity, and gender in the face of those who seek to divide us, those who profit by dispossessing people from their lands, exploiting labor, and extracting resources, do so through racist dehumanization and by sowing divisions among working people of different races, ethnicities, genders, and sexualities, who ultimately share class interests and are bonded by their common humanity. We must call out the state-sponsored propaganda that pits us against each other and the erosion of public resources that leaves us squabbling over crumbs. Together, we can continue the radical tradition of solidarity that includes Frederick Douglass's opposition to the Chinese Exclusion Act and Yuri Kochiyama's fierce and loving work alongside Malcolm X. We endeavor to rebuild the connections among us that the state has tried to sever. To this end, we must educate ourselves and our communities about our linked struggles, such as the impact of fracking on unceded indigenous land, the 75 million unexploded bombs that still litter the Lao countryside today, and the continuation of slave labor by another name in our prisons today. We must address the ways in which non-Black communities of color can also uphold white supremacy, for example, addressing anti-Black racism in East Asian communities. We need to arm our people with the understanding that the principle of extraction, of profit over people, is what has driven white supremacy, the colonization of Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and the discarding of working people, including white Americans, at home. When we undertake this work and recognize our common enemy, we are a real threat to those in power. Thank you.
The people united will never be defeated. This is a little short for me. I'm a very tall person. I could take it off. Oh, okay. That was a great statement from Diana. It was so comprehensive. So I'm going to give to you whatever I could give to you. It feels so good to be talking here with you today, and the need to unite and build solidarity across oppressed nationalities and peoples doing that in practice. Imperialism aims to pit groups against each other and cause divisions to prevent us from uniting against a common enemy and delivering effective blows at the ruling class. This is a capitalist and racist system they designed to benefit themselves at our expense. We can't talk about anti-Asian violence without talking about the role that the U.S. war machine plays, the ultimate violence against Asian countries like Vietnam, the Philippines, North Korea. The anti-Asian rhetoric that we hear as propaganda to fuel public sentiment that supports this U.S. war machine. And the war machine, we know, continues to allow the ruling class to gain resources from our countries. In fact, during Filipino-American War and during the Vietnam War, the U.S. Army saw many Black soldiers defect and join the other side because they recognized they had more in common with the people that they were fighting against. The U.S. military was segregating them in their barracks, meanwhile asking them to fight for the U.S. The media will have you thinking that solidarity is a dream, but solidarity has forever existed amongst our people. Capitalist propaganda will tell you that solidarity is superficial acts like corporations posting black squares on their Instagram and putting rainbows on police cars. But that's not solidarity. True solidarity unites people across the working class and recognizes our liberation is bound together against imperialism. Each of our struggles may have specific characteristics, but at the end of the day, we know that the struggle against imperialism, the struggle for the liberation of Black people, of the anti-Asian against anti-Asian violence and the struggle to free Puerto Rico are all the same. They're all anti-imperialist struggles. We understand that to build movement in solidarity for our communities here must include a strong anti-imperialist, anti-war movement across national liberation struggles. This is why New York Boricua Resistance is a member of the International League of People's Struggles, and we invite all organizations present to learn more about the League on our Instagram and Facebook, the International League of People's Struggles. Ooh, I accidentally exited out of the whole thing. We have a march for May Day where we'll be meeting on Baxter and Canal Street at 12 p.m. That's, if you don't know what May Day is, it's the march for working class people. Let's build an anti-imperialist united front, down with imperialism, and long live international solidarity. Thank you.
And we stand with the people of Haiti here in the little Dominican Republic. And we stand with the people of Mexico and Mexican immigrants. And we stand with the people of Palestine. And let's hear it for Haiti. And next up, we're going to hear from Potri, who's going to speak briefly on U.S. militarization in the Philippines. And then we're going to be graced with some performers. Thank you.
Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon, everyone. Militarization, racism equals militarization. Racism equals land grabbing of the natives, of the indigenous people. Today in the Philippines, we are suffering militarization. Today in the Philippines, for 500 years of colonization and for 500 years of resistance, up to now, colonization is going on. The military complex, the U.S. military complex, aided the government of the Philippines to bomb the only Islamic city of the Philippines. That is where I come from. Up to now, we are not returned to where we are. We are still an internally displaced people. Militarization equals racism. Racism is weaponizing people to be divided. Today, I cannot speak more except please raise your left fist to unite with the people of the world, from Palestine to the Philippines. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Philippines. And we're going to give you a dance, a symbol that we resisted colonization since 1500.
This is Mumia Abu Jamal randomly calling me.
Thank you for using security. You may start the conversation now.
Mooster, I happen to be at a demonstration against anti-Asian violence in New York City. Can you tell us anything?
Yes.
Go.
This country. Am I ready to go?
Yeah, you are ready to go. Can you hear him?
I can hear.
Yes, we can hear you.
On the move, y'all.
Happy birthday, they say.
Thank you. This country has a long and distinguished history of anti-Asian violence. And one of the most oppressed communities that were brought over here.
Wait, hold on. Go ahead.
This country has a long and distinguished history of anti-Asian violence. And it has a long history of being a community where people came over here and were exploited by their labor, not just as people who labored on the land, but people who labored in mines. And they were treated as not just non-citizens, but as non-human. And the truth is, the courts of the land had no help for them. And when they went to court, most of them lost their cases. It should be remembered that the Chinese Exclusion Act was one of the first acts of the new Congress that came into being after the Constitution. And the fact that they did that tells us that that was central in effect. And so we should not be surprised that anti-Asian violence still resonates throughout American society, because it was there in the beginning. It is here now. And only a determined, multinational, global movement, really, can beat back the forces of anti-Asian hatred. And it must be done. It must be done now.
Now, Mumia is calling us from a bed in a hospital in Pennsylvania after just having gotten heart surgery. So we appreciate you sharing your energy with us, Mumia. We love you. Happy birthday belatedly.
Thank you. Thank you all. On the move. I love you all. And in the spirit of anti-Asian struggle, let us unite and build a force that can transform our tomorrow. On the move.
On a move, and we're not far from the Audubon Ballroom where Malcolm X was killed. You want to say anything about Yuri and Malcolm?
Yuri Kochiyama. When Malcolm was assassinated, it was Yuri Kochiyama.
This is a call from
Pennsylvania State Correction, Mahanoy.
This call is subject to recording.
Cradled him in her arms as his essence left him. And from that point to her long and remarkable life, she championed Asian and Black unity, solidarity. And it wasn't just a political thing. It was a family thing. And her love was so powerful. And this is, most people did not know that she and her family were interned in concentration camps. And these are people who were born in the United States and under the law were citizens of the United States, and they had their land taken, their houses taken, their property taken, and finally their freedom taken for one thing only. Nothing that they did, but everything that they were. And they were Asian people or Japanese people. And that was enough for the United States to literally put them in concentration camps. And, as a little girl, Yuri never forgot that feeling of oppression and humiliation and how the state could take people's freedom for nothing. And she became a legend in popular movement all across the country, all around the world. Yuri Kuchiyama.
This is a call from
Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Mahanoy.
This call is subject to recording. Monitoring.
Yuri Kuchiyama, Dudente. Love her and remember her. I love you all. On the move.
On the move. We love you, Mumia. That was pretty amazing. I've been fighting around the case of Mumia Abu Jamal for many, many years. We're fighting for the highest aspirations of humanity, to free political prisoners, to stop anti-Asian violence, to save the environment, to free Puerto Rico, to stand up with the Philippines. What I wanted to say before we end, Rachel, is that we were graced with these incredible Philippine dancers. But the Philippines gave American empire a run for its money. Don't mess with the people from the Philippines. The history is incredible. Rachel who?
Good afternoon, sisters and brothers. My name is Rachel Hu. I'm an activist and organizer with the Answer Coalition. That's Act Now to Stop War and End Racism Coalition. His words brought tears to my eyes, fully and truly, for not just his struggle, not just his fight for liberation, but for his unrelenting solidarity with Asian people in this country. It is truly a beautiful and a blessing to have heard from him. So I want to say a few words today before we march. I want to start with a quote from Malcolm X, which really moves me. Malcolm X once said, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppression. And I say that to open because I want to say very clearly that Asian Americans in this country, we are being scapegoated. We are being scapegoated for the U.S. military ambitions abroad. And the reality is, when we talk about anti-China propaganda, that's anti-Chinese people propaganda, and that is coming back on us. So when we ask the question, where are the hate crimes coming from? Why are they happening? That is the cause and it is the reason. And so when we talk about the solution, we have to fundamentally talk about the U.S. war machine, and we have to talk about bringing our communities together to stand up and fight back against this empire. And this system will have you believing that the reason why we all must be divided is because Asian people in this country, we got it good. You know, bling empire, crazy rich Asians, they want you to believe that we have all this money and that we're doing so well, and ask the question, well, why aren't you doing so well? Look at Asian people, look how good they can have it. But it's a lie. It's a complete lie. I grew up in a town. I grew up in Cambodia town. That's where I'm from. I'm Southeast Asian. I'm proud. I'm from a refugee community, and we are struggling. Our communities are being deported by ICE. Our communities are struggling in poverty. We all grew up in the projects. We all grew up struggling to survive because all of our families worked under the table. That is our experience. We work in sweatshops right here in this community, right here in New York City, that you don't know and you don't see. We get paid off the books and we get paid less than minimum wage. That is our communities. Chinese Americans right here in New York City are the community that is highest in poverty wages, one of the poorest communities in New York, and we don't talk about that. So I want to demystify that and talk about we need solidarity because our struggles are the same. It is the same system. It is the same system that is keeping the boot on the necks of Asian people that is oppressing black and brown people in this country. It is the same system that is killing our black and brown sisters and brothers in the streets that's fueling this anti-China propaganda that's killing us in the streets. We are part of the same struggle because the reality is when we want to talk about this system, it will have you believing that Asian people are the enemy, that we are the enemy. But the truth is, our enemies are the millionaires in Congress and the billionaires that they serve. Those are our enemies. They want to blame China for this pandemic. But the truth is, this is the U.S. government's fault for leaving us out to die. We literally, in this pandemic, have lost 500,000 people. And that happened because the United States refused to give us PPE, refused to prepare, refused to get ventilators, and refused to have a full shutdown for our communities. And they did nothing about the fact that people in our communities are starving. We don't have jobs. We don't have health care. We don't have basic human rights in this country. And the United States would rather blame China than actually take responsibility for what it's done. Gave us 3 stimulus checks and said, good luck. But the reality is that we have millions of people that are facing eviction across the country, people who are food insecure. 1 in 6 people in this country do not have access regularly to food. They're going hungry in the richest country in the world. And the U.S. wants to say that's China's fault, that's Chinese people's fault. No, that's systems, it's the system's fault, and that system's name is capitalism. The capitalist system, capitalism is every time you go to work and you get $1,000 in your register and you only take home $80, that's capitalism. That's capitalism. The system that bails out the banks, gives money to Wall Street and lets us die, that's capitalism. And it's the same system that spends $900 billion on war and literally lets us die in the street because we don't have housing, that's capitalism. And so we have to stand together because since the beginning of this country, Asian people have been under attack. We have been lynched. We have been massacred. In 1871, 19 Chinese people were lynched in Los Angeles in one night. We have literally created towns in America because of the violence against us. They drove us out. They burned our homes. They killed our children. They raped women in our communities. That's why we're here, and that's what's happened to us. And we have a destiny that is deeply intertwined with the struggle for black liberation in America. Because from the Jim Crow South, all the way to the railroads on the West Coast, we have the same struggle against the same system that is killing all of us. And so we must stand together, and we must unite, and we must recognize fundamentally that our enemy is not each other. I am not mad at the individuals. I am not mad at the individuals that commit these hate crimes. I'm very hurt, but I am angry at the system that made them. I am angry at the propaganda that is in their ears that's made them do these things. And the only way to stop the U.S. war machine, to stop capitalism, to build a system for and by working people where we have the right to a job, the right to a home, the right to health care, is by recognizing that poor and working people around the globe, we have more in common with each other than we do with the 1% in power that continues to let us die. So I want to say that solidarity from Yuri and Malcolm to today where we march in the streets together, that solidarity, it is a tool to dismantle the system of capitalism that continues to oppress us. And we must use those tools, and we must unite, we must stand together, and we must fight together and build this movement. So I want to end on this. I want to end on this as a chant because we have nothing to lose but our chains. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Woo!
march. To remind you that this is just the beginning. What needs to continue is the messy dialogue that's going to continue in all of our community spaces beyond this day. But for today, we march together as one. The nurses are going to lead us out from this path, along this path, to the other end of the park. Please make way for the nurses. They're leading us in this march. Let's go.
Tell me what democracy looks like!
This is what democracy looks like!
Tell me what democracy looks like!
This is what democracy looks like!
Asian, Latin, black and white! Asian, Latin, black and white! Queremos justicia! Queremos! Queremos! ¿Y cuándo? ¿Y cuándo? Let's get this movement going! Let's go, let's go! Maki Baka! Maki Baka! Maki Baka! When I say Maki, you say Baka. Maki! 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 An injury to run! An injury to run!
And he's completely.
Is that what I come here for? I don't know.
I've been good. I've been the goodest. I've been out of my system.
Right.
There's a lot of.
We're going to see you all. All right, good to see you here. Bye. It's spilling all over everything.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to 164th Street. I represent the Uptown for Life Alumni Association. We're sorry that the Asians are now feeling the pain that my people have been feeling for 400 years. We're sorry that you're now getting the same type of incidents against your senseless violence that serves no purpose but to keep us down. Here, April 6, 1997, 3 a.m. in the morning, I lost one of my former players. His name was Kevin Cedeno. He was killed by one bullet in the back. No human should be killed by one bullet in the back and they forget his name. We appreciate the fact that you're the first march, the first protest to come to Amsterdam Avenue and remember his name.
And back then, there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, there was no Instagram, so we had no chance of getting anything changed. So what I want to tell you is, think about all the ones we've lost, where there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, there was no cell phones. He's not the only one. We need to remember, the violence is out of control. We must work together to stop it. If we don't work together, we have no chance. Once again, I tell you, I ask you to do one thing. Pause for 16 seconds. 16 seconds, a moment of silence, because he was only 16 years old. Thank you very much. Continue with your march. I will meet you at 125th Street.
Hey, Coach.
Stand up, fight back! It's huge.
We'll never be defeated. United.
Asian, black, brown, white. Same enemy, same fight. Asian, black, brown, white. Same enemy, same fight. Asian, black, brown, white. Same enemy, same fight.
Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. Our
Stand up, fight back.
Stand up, fight back.
When black lives are under attack, what do we do? Say what do we do? Say what do we do? When black lives are under attack, what do we do? When Asian lives are under attack, what do we do? When Asian lives are under attack, what do we do? Say what do we do? Say what do we do? Say what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
Say what do we do?
Stand up, fight back. Stand up, fight back.
Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power!
The people want to know who we are.
fight too.
Wake up, wake up! Wake up, wake up!
This is your fight too.
Wake up, wake up! Wake up, wake up!
This is your fight too.
Wake up, wake up!
This is your fight too.
Wake up, wake up!
This is your fight too.
Wake up, wake up!
This is your fight too.
Wake up, wake up! Black lives matter!
Black lives matter.
Asian lives matter!
Asian lives matter.
Black lives matter!
Black lives matter.
Asian lives matter!
Asian lives said fuck the police. I smell bacon, I smell grease. 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 Yeah, 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 yeah. Y'all make some motherfucking noise. Back up. We want freedom, freedom. All these racist ass cops. We don't need them, Back up. We want freedom, freedom. All these racist ass cops. We don't need them, Back up. We want freedom, freedom. All these racist ass cops. We don't need them, Back up. We want freedom, freedom. All these racist ass cops. We don't need them, Back up. We want freedom, freedom. We don't need them. All the racist ass cops. We don't need them. Back up. We don't need them. Back up. We want freedom, freedom. All these racist ass cops. We don't need them. All these racist ass cops. We don't need them. Back up. We want freedom, freedom. All these racist ass cops. We don't need them. Back up. We want freedom, freedom. All these racist killer cops. We don't need them. Hate crimes have got to go.
Hate in that body, or what do we say?
Hate crimes have got to go.
Hate on our people, what do we say?
Hate crimes have got to go.
I am honored by all of you for being here at this moment and honoring Yuri Kuchiyama and Malcolm X. As many of you know, Yuri, when everybody ran away when Malcolm was shot, Yuri went towards Malcolm. And in that famous picture, you see Yuri, Malcolm's head on Yuri's lap. Yuri was Malcolm's secretary. And many people don't know that Yuri lived in that building over there, right there. And she worked in various restaurants on 125th Street as a waitress. She had 6 children. I am blessed to be called Yuri, my mentor, my friend, and my comrade. And I miss her dearly. I miss her dearly. The last campaign that I worked with her before she left New York City was in 1998, as we created a coalition, which now is called Jericho, to free political prisoners.
Bravo.
And that was her life work. Outside of being an activist in the Asian community, challenging the state and getting reparations for the concentration camps, and that's what they were, non-internment concentration camp, that all our brothers and sisters during the Second World War, all the Asians were put into, could happen to us.
Yes.
Anytime.
Philippines right now.
So, this is an honor for me to be asked to speak on this day. As a youth, Yuri and Janet Carlson ran a youth program around the corner next to where the police precinct is. And all of you should look for the Joint Schools Committee because they were fighting for education. As I said to you, she had 6 children, and they all went to that public school right there. This was Yuri's community, her life. And there was always Asian, Black, and brown unity wherever Yuri was at. Always. And we strive for that actively. So in this moment of rage, we need to stand with the values of Yuri Kuchiyama and the values of Malcolm X.
Yes.
You know, our bodies are the bodies of every Asian person that has been violated.
That's right.
Yes, got it.
So again, thank you. Thank you for giving me this. I don't even know who gave me the mic. But thank you. And this morning, we created an altar for all of us. And we brought pieces of that altar with us to leave it here for Yuri and Malcolm. We honor our ancestors actively, and we stand on their shoulders, and say, basta ya, enough is enough. When I say fight back, you say. 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 Hasta la victoria siempre. Venceremos. We will be free. All our political prisoners will be free. And we will stop violence in this city and in this country and this world. Each one of us. Because we are the ones that make freedom happen. I am all, se le quiere mucho, muchas bendiciones. There is love, many blessings. Lots of love.
Make some noise for that beautiful queen, y'all. Y'all make some noise for this queen. Make some noise.
You could all call me what my indigenous community calls me. I know indigenous community. BB. BBSB, okay?
BBSB. Gracias.
It has to be in front of the mic.
Bravo, baby.
Who gets the mic now?
Take you up. Speak over here. Giving you some more, Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power. Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Black power.
Asian power.
Asian power. For the map.
We don't need them.
I said back up, back up.
We want freedom, freedom.
All these racist terror cops.
We don't need them.
I said back up, back up.
We want freedom, freedom.
All these racist terror cops.
We don't need them, Back up, back up. We want freedom, freedom. All these racist ass cops. We don't need them,
Black, brown, Asian, white, workers of the world unite! Black, brown, Asian, white, workers of the world unite! All right. Uptown March for solidarity with Asian lives. Y'all made it. Give yourselves a hand. You marched all the way from Mitchel Square Park down here outside the state office building in solidarity with Asian lives. They're really black lives and all working class and nationally oppressed people's lives. We heard from so many amazing speakers, inspiring speakers, and a common thread across all of those speeches was that we got more that unites us than that divides us. In the midst of all this API violence, let us get it straight that the biggest purveyor of violence against Asian people, black people, and all working class people is this imperialist white supremacist state. So it's so heartening and inspiring to see so many people, so many communities from across New York City coming together in solidarity to fight for a better world. So we got a program for you today. My name is Nina Macapinlac. I am with Buy In USA, an alliance of anti-imperialist Filipino organizations. We're also a proud member of the International League of People's Struggle. And so I'd like to call up a revolutionary. And right before y'all came here, we heard from Mumia Abu Jamal. We heard from him. We heard his pure and unrelenting solidarity with API communities, tied up to a prison bed after he just got heart surgery. So may we all be like those revolutionaries who are incarcerated. May we emulate them. So I'd like to call up first Jamal Joseph, a writer, director, producer, poet, activist, and educator. He was a member of the Black Panther Party and also the New York Panthers. He's a former political prisoner and spent 6 years incarcerated at Leavenworth Penitentiary. Please give him a warm welcome.
Come on, y'all make some more noise in there for some black excellence.
All power to the people. Black power for black people. Brown power for brown people. Yellow power for yellow people.
Yellow power for yellow people.
Red power for red people.
Red power for red people.
White power for white people.
White power for white people.
Liberation power for LGBTQX people. And X power to anyone we may not have mentioned, because it is about all power to all of the people. Brothers and sisters, comrades, if you look around, this is what struggle looks like. This is what community looks like. This is what liberation looks like. so we understand why we are here today. We're here today in solidarity against racism, oppression, brutality, but also the brainwashing of a capitalist system that is making human beings, humanity, look at each other with hatred as the power structure continues to do business as usual. And our job, by marching, by boycotting, by standing in, by organizing, is to make oppression, racism, the violence we're seeing against our Asian brothers and sisters, comrades, bad for capitalist business. We've got to connect those dots, not just today, but for folks in the community. The fascist playbook, the stuff that started with Trump, with the orange man, demonizing the immigrant community, demonizing the brown community, demonizing the yellow community, so that people not only feel that it is their right, but that it is their duty to attack, to murder, to kill, to defame. We have to be a united rainbow wall standing against that. Fred Ho would play concerts right on this street corner. Yuri Kuchiyama marched up and down these streets, stood on this corner with brother Malcolm X, lived and raised her children a few blocks from here. Can we say all power to Sister Yuri Kuchiyama? And to Comrade Fred Ho. But here's what's important, brothers and sisters. Here's what we know about that grassroots organizing. Here's what we know from the legacy of the Black Panther Party, from Ewok Hoon, from the Young Lords, from Rising Up Angry, from the Patriot Party. We've got to be on the ground in the communities every day. It's not enough that we're aware. It's not enough that we march. It's not enough that we boycott. People who have been brainwashed the system have to be educated by our presence and organized around programs, liberation programs. They've got to see us each day, whether it's around health, whether it's around hunger, whether it's around housing, whether it's around the ability to walk safely in the community. This rainbow can't disappear today. It can't just be put up on social media. It can't just be talked about. We have to have this defiant, revolutionary wall that says all power to the people all of the time. In the memory of all those freedom fighters and of that coalition and of class struggle that we understand will topple the system, we have to be those long-distance revolutionaries that are in the communities. Can we do that? Can we fight? Can we fight? Can we educate? Can we liberate? Can we end this violence against our Asian brothers and sisters? Can we understand that a slap against one of our Asian brothers and sisters is a punch, a knife wound, or a bullet wound to all of us? So we stand in solidarity today, now, and forever. All power to the people.
All power to the people!
Thank you so much for those powerful words. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Thank you. So speaking of class struggle, it is so key to organize the workers. Here in the U.S., there is only 10% union density, so we really got to fight for working class people, build fighting unions. So I'd like to call up for our second speaker, the Executive Vice President of 1199, Maria Mercado.
I'm going to go like this. Thank you, yes. If you remember a name today, when you walk away, I want you to learn this name. Phoenix Robles. Say it. Phoenix Robles. You know who she is? Go on Instagram. I want you to watch a video that every time I see it brings me to tears. There was a woman this week. There was a woman this week in Minnesota in front of the Brooklyn Police Department who sat on the floor and protested. Protested this week while the George Floyd trial was about to end. And she was surrounded by police. And this other woman, Phoenix Robles, was driving down the street and saw the sister was in distress and stopped. This one woman stopped and confronted an entire police department and forced them to back off from our black sister who could have been killed in the middle of the street. Why am I raising this? Because we all should be Phoenix Robles. Yes. Each and every single day of our lives, we should be Phoenix Robles. She single-handedly defeated an entire police department and possibly saved Dorca Morani's life. And you know what else she did? She went and told her community, how dare you watch our sister in distress in the street, and how dare you not go to her aid? And that's what got to me. All day this morning I was crying over this. How dare anyone watch our sisters and brothers in distress and not go to their aid? And I just don't mean go risk your life and do something. Organize, mobilize, educate. Organize, mobilize, educate. That's what we should be doing every day. This past Wednesday, a sister of mine in the struggle, one of our organizers, was attacked. She was attacked because of the way she looked in Brooklyn, here in New York, in Brooklyn. As she was coming out of helping healthcare heroes, she was attacked by two men who came from behind her and started telling her to go home. They don't know her, they didn't know who she was, but because of the way she looked, they told her to go home. She's Filipino American. And this is their home, this is her home, but they didn't know that. They were too ignorant to know that. Okay, I'm tired of saying, let's love and let's love. Let's organize and let's fight back. That's what we need to do. What the hell is going on that you can walk down the street because somebody doesn't like the way you look, they send you home. You know what? If we were all to go home, there will be no United States of America. Because all of us made the United States of America. Think about it. This is our country, and we're staying here. This is our home. When we say, all black people stand up, I don't care what color you are, I don't care what culture you are, stand up. Stand up, because at that moment, you're black. And if you're not, you need to go somewhere else. At that moment, you are. If we say, all Asian people stand up, what do? We all stand up. And if we remember these small principles, we will be a better community. Not a Latino community, not a black community, not an Asian community, a people community. That's what we should be. Thank you. Stay strong and stay fighting. And remember, we are all home, right? Let's say it. We are all home. This is our home. This is our land. And we're not giving it up. They need to assimilate. We don't need to assimilate.
Well, that's right. Let's get organized. Join an organization. Build a mass movement. So for our next speaker, I'd like to introduce the cousin of Christian Hall, a 19-year-old who was killed in Pennsylvania. Please give her a warm welcome, Nicole Enriquez.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. This is my nephew, Christian Hall. Why do I say this is my nephew? Because he is a Chinese adoptee, and I am black and Latino, and that is my nephew. I'm here to fight for him. I'm here to speak his name. No one is saying Christian Hall's name. He died December 30th, 2020. He was having a mental health crisis. He was in between therapists. He was shut in because of the pandemic, and he had just broken up with his girlfriend. How many of you out there have had that similar situation where you thought you couldn't continue? That was my nephew. And he thought calling the police was the right thing to do. And he called 911 to help him. But instead, they killed him. 7 shots at my nephew, 19 years old. He didn't even have his driver's license yet. We are a blended family. We are black, we are white, we are Latino, and we are Asian. This is my cousin. This is his wife. She is Filipina. We are a blended family, and this is what should be a symbolic of how we all work together. We are also Jamaican, and I don't know if you know the motto of Jamaica, but it says, out of many, one people. So what this speaker just said is right on point. We should be one people. It shouldn't be one community versus another. It should be all of us fighting for one good, which is against racism, systemic racism, police violence, ending it. That's what we should be doing. You know why I'm a little bit mad today? Because no one is speaking about my nephew. Why? You tell me. Does he not fit a certain category for the TV news to care about an Asian, Chinese teenager who got killed? Is that what it is? Well, I'm black. Care about it because I'm black and his father's black. Is anyone going to mention his name on TV? His hands were up. His hands were up. Don't shoot, in an act of surrender. And they still killed him. And you know why you don't know about this? Because the police, 115 days after his death, has not released the dash cam video. Let's think about this week. Everyone else's dash cam video has been released, and God rest their soul, and I pray for their families. But they won't release my nephew's dash cam video. Why? You tell me. They won't tell me who the police officers are either. His hands were up when he was killed, and no one's talking about it. The video for the dash cam, 90 minutes long. You tell me why they're not showing the 90-minute long video. I'm here today to speak his name, and I hope that you guys will remember who my nephew is. My nephew is Christian Hall. Say his name. Everyone say his name. Christian Hall. Anytime you can, please speak about it. In this journey, I'm not Asian, but I've learned more about Asian community. I'm being an ally to the Asian community. I was marching with the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm an ally to the Asian community, obviously, because I'm human. I should care. Yes. You should care. Yes. It shouldn't be that I'm black and that person's Asian. We should all care. What if in that moment you had a mental health problem and you had no one else to call but the police? Or what if one of your family members had a problem? Would you feel safe enough to call the police for help? Do you think that's who we should be calling? I wouldn't call. I have 2 black sons. This is my husband, he's Puerto Rican. Our 2 black sons, I pray for them every day for their safety. I never thought this would happen to my Asian nephew. I want you to listen to my story. There are so many stories out there that I've heard from other adoptees that mental health crisis is even worse than the adoptee population. The Asian population has a higher incidence of suicide. So what have we done? I may not get justice for my nephew because I can't have him back. That's all we want, right? But what we are going to do is create action. We've created a foundation in his honor. It's called the Christian J. Hall Foundation. Part of that foundation is to address mental health and bringing mental health to different communities that are underserved, whether it has to be a mobile crisis unit or not. And we're also developing a strategy to help adoptees with mental health. Besides other things, but sorry for my passion, but I miss my nephew. I used to speak with him every other week. Now, I don't know how many of you are 19 or have 19-year-olds, but I'm sure your 19-year-olds don't want to FaceTime you. They want to text you, right? I have a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old, but this guy, my nephew, was special. He would FaceTime me. He would ask me, Tia, what's going on today? What are you doing? I said, oh, I'm in court right now. Okay, I'll call you on 12 o'clock on Saturday. He wanted to be connected to people. He helped people that were getting bullied. He was against racism, and no one is speaking his name. Just please remember him when you say those chants. Please remember who he was. He was a good person, and he did not deserve to die. A mental health crisis should not equal a death sentence. Thank you for having me.
So I was asked to teach everybody a Filipino resistance chant. It stands for Dare to Struggle, Do Not Be Afraid. You might have heard it in the first stop. It goes, Maki Baka Wag Mat. Oh yes, so I'm gonna show you how it goes first, and then we're gonna remix it a little bit so it's easier for everybody, okay? So the original goes, Maki Baka Wag Matakot. So that's how it goes in the Philippines, and over here it's a chant that goes all the way back to the martial law era against the dictator Marcos, and which is still relevant to us as we're trying to oust the dictator Rodrigo Duterte. But really, it is a chant of resistance of all people across all communities. So just to make it a little easier for everyone, when I say Maki, you say Baka, Maki, Baka. Maki, Baka. When I say Wagma, you say Takot, Wagma, Takot. Wagma, Takot. When I say Maki, you say Baka, Maki, Baka. Maki, Baka. Wagma. So when I say Wagma, you say Takot, Wagma, Takot. Wagma, Takot. Maki, Maki, Wagma, Wagma. Yes, give yourselves a hand. So with that introduction, I'd like to call up Malaika to talk a little bit about the struggle of the Mindanao people and also do a little cultural. Maki Baka! Maki Baka! Wagma Takot! Wagma Takot!
Okay, we're gonna perform to you a repeat. We did perform it in the first stop, but we're asked to perform again. So this dance is coming the people of the lake, the Maranao people, who's the only Islamic city in the Philippines that was bombed to the ground in May 23, 2017 by our government with the help of the military complex of USA that is always present in the Philippines, guarding the open pit mines and all the complex that is what you call imperialist industry. So, today, I am an American. But being an American, I have to remember the Philippines. Because the Philippines was colonized by the Spaniards and USA, and up to now, it's facing name colonization. I'm not supposed to do a speech. This dance you're gonna dance today is a dance of resistance from the Maranao people, people of the lake. Remember that. Maki Baka! Maki Baka! Wag matakot! Wag matakot!
Good afternoon. First and foremost, thank you for allowing me to say a few words and thinking about intersectionality. My name is Philip Ellison, born and raised in Manhattan and Harlem, and also grew up by Chinatown. And I do take a moment to think about the verdict this week, to think about the lives that have been taken from us all across all races, and in particular as we stand together in Asian, Black, white, and so forth. My announcement is that I work in the public advocate's office, but I've been very passionate in pushing around accountability around policing. The first march from Uptown was around the Black lives that were lost, and we're here in solidarity today. And understanding in the pandemic that technology has become the infrastructure for so many of our lives, our entertainment, our communications, our social, and our education. But there's so much inequality, and when we see today, when it comes to policing and housing, technologies like surveillance, like facial recognition, that misidentify Black and brown women, older women, LGBTQ+, disabilities, Asian Americans. We see in Chinatown, in Knickerbocker Village, people have not been able to get into their buildings at times because landlords have put in facial recognition systems. But it's also that the police are using facial recognition on our communities every day. This week in NYCHA, they put a surveillance dog in the NYCHA public housing building. And so we have to slow down these private vendors and these police departments. So on Thursday at 6, we are bringing youth and young adults and welcome intergenerational collaboration to come learn with us about facial recognition and digital surveillance by police. We are going to be taking stands, and youth and the young adults are going to be organizing. Right here. So I say with love, I end with the space that I was given to me, that I ask you all to join Thursday at 6 online, ban the scan. We want to ban facial recognition and police accountability for all of us, for Asian lives and Black lives, for white lives and brown lives, for LGBTQ+, and people with disabilities. Thursday at 6, ban the scan, Eventbrite. Thank you for your time and blessings. All love to the people.
All love to the people indeed. That was our last speaker. We're gonna end it with a cultural from singer Treya Lamb. Give it up for Treya Lamb.
This is a song called Dawn. The verses speak on the dark roots that our country was founded on and continue to show up today. Gun violence, state-sanctioned killing of Black men, the stealing of land from the Indigenous people. But the chorus, and I don't say this frivolously, but the chorus invites y'all to imagine, to prioritize joy, not in a way that bypasses and disconnects from the realities that are happening, but in a way that we need to fight, to love, to thrive for one another. America, the beautiful. Your streets are paved with blood, and your rivers run with tears that flow to form a cleansing flood. You got down our community. All we get are thoughts and prayers. The politicians say what they want to say, but they still act like they don't care. And if you find the eye of the storm, well, hold on. before dawn. So shine on, shine on. And we shake our heads at the news reports and say, oh, this isn't who we are. No, watch your families get torn apart. Oh, but I've seen this hate before. Those who claim to love the Holy One go marching into war. They have fallen for that silver tongue, cut me down to build a wall. If you find the eye of the storm, well, hold on, hold on. Don't you know it's always darkest before dawn? So shine on, shine on. So shine on, shine on. Shine on, shine on. I haven't shared this publicly yet, but it's I'm an Asian American adoptee. I'm a transnational adoptee, and Christian Hall family member was speaking on mental health and how it affects adoptees. 1 in 4 adoptees are likely to attempt suicide. I was one of them. In 9th grade, I was having a mental health crisis. Small, like 90-something pound, femme presenting at the time. I'm non-binary. Unthreatening. My school called the police on me, and 2 officers, guns, everything, showed up and brought me to the psychiatric ward. And I think I shelved that memory for a long time. But ever since I learned about the story of Christian Hall, I cannot stop thinking about how lucky I was to have walked away from that. And we don't need to have skin in the game to fight for equality. Our liberation is all bound with communities beyond ours. The Minnesota police, who took the lives of too many black men, they were also responsible for the lives of 2 Hmong men as well. Children, actually. Jason Yang, Fong Lee. There has been no justice for them. We need to fight for Dante Wright. We need to keep saying Ma'Khia Bryant's name. We need to keep fighting for Elijah McClain, Breonna Taylor, Angelo Quinto. This is work beyond our lifetime, but we have to fight anyways. This might be awkward, but like, if y'all want to try to lock eyes with someone and just send them like a message of, I will fight for you, I will thrive for you, I will live with you, I will build with you. Just send someone you don't know a little bit of love today. And let's keep the fight going, not just in response to tragedy, but every day, for our joy, for our liberation, for our healing. This is a song called Keep the Flowers Growing. Burning till you come home. I will keep the fires burning till you come home. I know the cold wind's been blowing with no signs of sun, and I will keep the fires burning till you come home. And I will keep the rivers rolling till you come home. Oh, I will keep the rivers rolling till you come home. I know your tears have been flowing, but just keep on going. We'll keep the rivers rolling till you come home. I will stand up for your rights like they're my own. Oh, I will stand up for your rights like they're my own. I know the system is broken, so I'll keep on hoping. Will stand up for your rights like they're my own. And I will keep the flowers growing till you come home. Oh, I will keep the flowers growing till you come home. I know the wars have been raging, so I'll keep on praying. I will keep the flowers growing till you come home. Oh, I will keep the flowers growing till you come home. Oh, I will keep the flowers growing till you come home.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that cultural offering. I'd just like to give a shout out to our ASL interpreters. Thank you so much. And let's continue to build spaces for language justice, for accessibility for all. And before folks go, I hope you're not going. It's not over yet. I think some people thought it's over. but it's definitely not. This is only power stop number 2. We're actually headed down to the next stop, 125th Street and 3rd Avenue. And then after that, going to the People's Church down Lexington. So please, please stay with us. Keep marching.
The Asian man that got beat on Lexington, he's at Harlem Hospital. I went to go visit him. I'm the hospital chaplain at Harlem Hospital. And I just want y'all to know, I'm here with y'all. I want you to know we gotta do things in decency and in order. Everything gotta be about peace. It's not about retaliation, it's not about, because there's a lot of things happening in our community, in our city. So we need to be mindful that everything should be peaceful. And I just want y'all to know, I want y'all to put your hand in the air. This is the peace sign. Put the peace sign in the air. The peace sign is that we're gonna walk in peace. Okay, keep those hands up high as we pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your presence. You said when 2 or 3 gather together that you are in the midst. So we know your spirit is here. Let that spirit walk with us, but keep the peace, Lord God. Lord, we pray for the family. We pray for the man that's fighting for his life. You know what happened. You know what's been happening throughout our city and the attacks on Asians. And we don't tolerate no acts of violence on nobody. It's unacceptable. So Lord, we ask you right now, have your way, Lord God. Give us peace that passes all understanding. In Jesus' name, amen. Clap it up, y'all. Can everybody hear me out there? Okay, I'm gonna make this real brief.
It's only gonna take 5 minutes because I don't have long wind. Right on that corner over there, a 61-year-old man was beaten half to death. Yesterday, I was at the hospital, Harlem Hospital, with the family. And all I can tell you, he's hanging on by a thread, all right? On the news, they say a 61-year-old Asian man, all right? His name is Young Pao, that's his name. So he's not just an Asian man, he got a name, all right? And my thing is this, the only way you can deal with violence is with violence. While we talking right here, I got people up and down, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but I've been conversating with people up and down the block. We are looking for him right now. And all I can pray for, if the police get him before we get him. Because we will not call the police. We're gonna deal with it like it was dealt with. And we're gonna bring them piece by piece. Now I heard the preach up there at the state building say we need to have peace. If you see the image, this is how he's up. Look at him. He's hanging on by a thread. All right? Tap the screen so they can see his face. Okay? So we're supposed to have peace? I'm gonna let y'all know when we catch him, we're gonna bring him in pieces. All right? So I'm gonna make this real brief. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock at Harlem Hospital, we're gonna have a prayer vigil. Hopefully the family, you know, the niece might be there. The wife, she stays with him 24/7 in ICU. So I'm asking everybody that's out here to have that same energy to come to Harlem Hospital at 6 o'clock and let's pray for this man. All right, I'm asking y'all to come out here the way y'all come out here. We got to pray for this family, man. It's got to stop. I know what y'all going through, but I want you to see the love that the black, Asian, and brown, because we all bleed red. I don't believe in that color thing. Everybody, all right? Somebody asked me as we was coming down, and I'm gonna wrap it up. When we was coming down here, somebody said, how can you have the nerve to have on an Asian Lives Matter shirt? I said, you know why? Because when Black Lives Matter was having rallies, the Asian brothers and sisters right there with us. All right? So let's don't get into that. You know, so if you come to me, you see me with an Asian Lives Matter, and you act so stupid, I might knock the teeth out your mouth. All right? Because we are all brothers and sisters. So I just want y'all to say, Asian Lives Matter! Asian Lives Matter! Asian Lives Matter! Y'all keep this family in prayer, and I'll see y'all hopefully at 6 o'clock tomorrow at Harlem Hospital right in the front. And let's bring prayer, and let's bring this same energy, man, and just pray for this family, and may God bless all of y'all. I'm out. I wouldn't drop the mic, but I want to break it.
Christian Hall. We need to say his name, Christian Hall. But what we don't want is for what happened on 123rd Street and 3rd Avenue to be used as an excuse to build the cops in this town. And to build the carceral state. Because ultimately, as was said previously, the police is an institution that emerges to return escaped slaves back to the plantation.
That's right. That's right.
So we don't want to give more power to the biggest purveyor of violence the world over. We want to take power back into the hands of working people, into our communities, and we want to build a world where the system doesn't prioritize profits over human beings. Because when you prioritize profits over human beings, y'all are gonna have to demonize some of us. When you are gonna exploit, some of us are gonna have to be demonized.
That's right.
Some of us are gonna have to be the problem. But what we're here to say is that this is a rich world. And there's room in it for everyone. We can all live in equality.
That's right.
But in order to do that, we need to take power from the 1% that care zero about us, and they care zero about the earth and the environment. We want to say that Asian lives matter, that Black lives matter, that Mexican lives matter, that working people's lives matter, and that we move from 125th Street and 3rd Avenue to the People's Church, where the Young Lords occupied in 1969 around these same issues. And we're here to say that the world is in struggle. People are rising up in Mexico and in Asia, throughout Asia. People are rising up in Oakland. People are rising up in Latin America. And this is the dawning of a new era, and it is an honor. It should be an honor for all of us to form part of this new, what will hopefully be a new moment in history, where we say, finally, we will not allow prophets to stand over people, and we will not allow the white supremacy and demonization and scapegoating that leads to the senseless violence that we saw on this corner. And that we're gonna go and we're gonna tell people in our community that they are misguided and confused, and that it is easier to kick down than to kick up to the people in power. But that's what we have to do if we're gonna build a new world. Thank you.
Power and power. Okay, mic check. Okay, so bear with me. All the images that we have all been seeing of the Asian violence that has been hit us, and this isn't new. It didn't start yesterday. The same thing that happened with Black people. No, like George Floyd was not the first person. We know that. This is part of it. Part of it is a tool being used by the media and by the police to create a reason for, especially in New York City, to have more police. They want the fear in the city. They want a reason to justify more funding. They want a reason to just, the 65-year-old Filipino woman, I know we saw the video in Midtown where she got her head stomped by the man that walked. If you notice the parole, you notice they always try to mention that he is a parolee. They are trying to do everything they can to keep the system the way they are, to keep people afraid of the cops. I do not know, I do not see a lot of your faces out a lot. I go out weekly. The past 2 weeks, since Dante Wright died, have been some of those brutal times with the NYPD and the protesters. Last night, we got pepper sprayed. We, let's see, probably about 50 protesters and about 100 people tried to push us off a bridge. With the mayoral race is coming up, they are going to try to do everything possible to create this fear in the city, to constantly create a division between Asian and Blacks, to constantly play off of every single thing, so that people like Diana Morales is not elected, someone that wants to defund the police. They want to get you, that is why Andrew Yang exists. There are many reasons why Andrew Yang exists. Do not vote for Andrew Yang. But these are these little things that are happening. Oh. Hello? Whatever. Sorry. There are these little things that are happening, and I want us to be aware of this. None of these crimes are new. None of these crimes came out of nowhere. And I want us to know that these are these little things that are happening to make us be afraid. We do not have to be afraid of the cops. Anything that you want to conquer in life, you need to be able to look in the face. They need a Stonewall. I would love to see you all there. Every single Saturday night at Broadway Square, people go out for a man. His name is Officer Artem Puste? Okay, he pulled a gun on us, on protesters in early January. And we go out to fight to get him fired. He's still on job, he's still on duty. Okay? We have videos of cops just beating us. All of them still on duty. I would love to see you all out there. I would love to see you, okay?
2 years ago, he moved to Harlem after their Chinatown apartment burned down. And recently, he lost his job to COVID. And he was collecting cans to help support his family. So that is the person who's fighting for their lives, for their life today, the 61-year-old Yao Pan Ma.
and we stand here in solidarity and in prayer with him and his family. And we're going to continue our march to the People's Church, where we will have some final performances. So please continue to join us in this long march. Thank you.
How much you gonna do? How much you gonna do? Right here, right now. In Spanish Harlem. In all of here. In New York State. The people united. I said my people united. La gente unida. I said la gente. Que no jodan con la gente.
We are the people. Say it louder. We want justice for our people. We are the people. Say it louder. We want justice for our people.
Que no jodan con la gente.
Yo quiero sombra, yo quiero sombra. El día que yo me muera, yo quiero sombra. Yo quiero sombra, yo quiero sombra. El día que yo me muera, yo quiero sombra. Yo quiero sombra, yo quiero sombra. El día que yo me muero, yo quiero sombra. Yo quiero sombra, yo quiero sombra. El día que yo me muero, yo quiero sombra.
Mi gente, give it up for Bobby Sanabria. Peace, mi gente. The people united. The people united.
Will never be defeated.
El pueblo unidos.
Jamás será vencido.
El pueblo unidos.
Jamás será vencido.
Mi gente, I invite you to contribute to our community altar. If you want to add a name of a life that has been stolen unjustly by this police state, please, we invite you to come up. There's markers, there's posters. Give it up for yourselves. Give it up for yourselves. Come on. My name is Mariposa. I'm a poet, activist, and educator. I am so proud of my community. I'm so proud to be here today to stand in solidarity for Asian lives. Can I have the poet Perry Young on deck? On deck. We have some amazing artists. I'm going to invite you to come here to the center. Please give your love to Perry Young.
Thank you. Let me check out my bass here. Whoa, can you all hear that? All right, my name is Perry Young. I'm from Oakland, California, home of the Black Panthers. I'm also an actor, and I was very lucky to get cast in Warrior, written by Bruce Lee 50 years ago. Back then, when they tried to sell that to Hollywood, they said no thank you. A little while later, David Carradine showed up. as a Chinese man wandering across America. David Carradine, a white man. Took 50 years for HBO to produce Warrior, thanks to his daughter Shannon Lee. Now, season 1, episode 1, scene 1. Our lead gets off the boat. Whoa, you can take that down a little bit. Our lead gets off a boat. You can do a little soundtrack as I talk. Yeah, the lead gets off a boat from China. He sees signs that says, Chinese, go home. They spat on him. That's the story of my life as a 4th generation Chinese American. My great grandfather was on that boat. When he got off that boat, he saw signs that says Chinese go home. This was right during the time of the Anti-Chinese Exclusion Act. They brought Chinese out to pay them for cheap labor so that they didn't have to pay the freed slaves for labor. So we are a wedge against solidarity. We got to see that. So I heard an interview with Angela Davis and Grace Lee Boggs. They said, when you're an activist for life. You gotta enjoy this. So you people here, thank you. I am enjoying today. And I have to look back at history, like Maya Angelou says, to understand your future, where you're going. You gotta know your history. And I wonder what my great-great-grandfather thought when he sailed over here on that boat. I hoped he had kept a journal. Maybe it went like this. On the 3rd day of the 10th month, I've been on this vessel now for 9 days. The journey west to the Gold Mountain may take as long as 30. If the winds are on our side. It's difficult to move in here. I can hardly breathe. On the 12th day of the 10th month, a winter storm allowed us a bath on deck tonight. The cold, cold rain did what it could to wash the vomit off our clothing. On our return, we found that they had swept the feces from where we are kept, from the bowels of the ship. On the 2nd day of the 11th month, there's more room to move now as 2 more of my fellow countrymen have died, their bodies tossed overboard. It's a better fate that the sharks should have them, for I too am becoming weak from the soup of rotten vegetables. On the 20th day of the 11th month, my head is clouded thick with death and decay as the bones of half my brothers lay at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Even the rats won't come down here no more. Or perhaps we've eaten them all. On the 25th day of the 12th month, a light cuts through the hull like a jagged blade. Aguilo says in his devil's tongue, you are at the gate of the Gold Mountain, at the island called Angel, where you shall wait your entry. Angel Island. On the 3rd day, the 10th month, I've been on this rock now for 9 moons. I can still hope that one day I could pocket the gold I find, walk the Gold Mountain. But the immigration interrogation officers question me of my family, my history. You are a paper son, aren't you? You are trying to buy your way into America, aren't you? And what would you do if we allow you on the Gold Mountain? Would you take the job of an American?
Some have been on this rock longer than I have, while others have managed to escape. Some took their lives rather than risk the hell journey back, while others simply died on this rock called Angel. This rock called Ellis. This rock not called Plymouth. Thank you very much.
Give it up for Perry Young. You can follow him on Instagram, Perry Young Official, so you can be inspired more. That shit was fire. I don't know about y'all, but I'm a big Warrior fan. I'm a big Warriors fan. If you're a Warriors fan, let me hear you holla. I gotta adjust this a little bit. I wanna call on deck Khalil from AfroSoc on deck. Khalil. I just want to say, just to acknowledge that we are standing in a historical site for our community, for a revolution. Here we are at the People's Church, which was taken over by the Young Lords in 1969, I believe, December of 1969. I'm Boricua, 100%. We stand in solidarity for Black lives, for a free Puerto Rico, for a world without U.S. imperialism and U.S. colonialism killing our people, and the Jones Act. Reparations! 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 No justice, no racist, no justice, no racist. Whose streets? Whose streets? Pa'lante siempre. So, my name is Mariposa, as I said, right? Which in Spanish means what? Because I'm butter and I'm fly. Let's give it up. Let's give it up for Khalil from AfroSoc.
Hey y'all, how's it going? My name is Khalil. I'm on the organizing committee for the Afro Socialist of Color Caucus, and also a member of the NYCDSA Racial Justice Working Group. So the course of the year, the harassment, discrimination, and violence toward our API comrades, community members has grown to a fever pitch. Fomented by the Trump administration's bigotry, calling COVID-19 the Chinese virus, aided by a Democratic Party beating the war drums and turning up the heat in the U.S.'s new Cold War with China. And then on March 16th, when a white supremacist brutally murdered 6 Asian women sex workers, the violence they were subjected to was connected to the racist police murders of Dante Wright, Adam Toledo, and Ma'Khia Bryant. The latter killed mere moments before Derek Chauvin's verdict. We know we need to break this cycle. We need to disrupt racial capitalism. We know jailing those who do harm to our community members, like Yao Pan Ma, is no real justice. And this poem speaks to the need for us to keep fighting for real justice, because we're done waiting for it. They say to wait our turn, that if we just shut up and earn, their spoils of our labor will trickle down. They say to wait and dull the strike sound, dialing down the volume on the struggle for our freedom. Oh, it just takes time, you see. Change ain't easy, but it's just cheesy. The talking points of pigs who've had their fill, whose politics and policy have kept us ill. They say we can't have justice, not yet. But against the working class, they've lost this bet. They say equity is too inflammatory. Sustainability, a fantasy. When will we workers see that all our power rests in the chains that bind us together? We, the people, are done waiting. Thank you. I wanted to end I got one more minute. Let's go. So we need to organize a broad, multiracial, abolitionist, socialist, feminist, anti-violence movement that fights to make sure that working class communities have its needs met and are free from hate, free from discrimination, free from xenophobia, surveillance, and state violence. And I want to invite y'all tonight. There is a Defund NYPD Coalition Looking Back and Moving Forward Community Forum at 6 p.m. You can register at bit.ly Defund capital D Coalition capital C 425. Hope y'all show out as we build this movement for a city where we can really keep each other safe and don't have to rely on cuffs and cages. Thank y'all.
The sun came out for us today. The rain didn't stop us. Nothing stopped us. Give it up. Where's David Galarza? David Galarza, to the mic.
Gracias, maestro. Give it up for Bobby Sanabria. And if you all enjoyed La Botella from Washington Heights to 111th Street, give all honor and praise to Dr. Drum from Bombayo, for always being presente at all these different manifestations for social justice. My name is David Galarza. I work in labor, and I'm also with the Justice Committee that comes out of the National Congress of Puerto Rican Rights. The Justice Committee that was co-founded by the great Richie Perez. Give it up for Richie Perez. Richie Presente. Richie was in this church taking over some years ago, decades ago, in the fight for social justice in this community, in this city, this country. A lot's been said already, and I'm not going to repeat a lot that's been said because it's been said so eloquently and so passionately and so well. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention two comrades that I work with on a regular basis that are Asian comrades. And one of them is named Yu San Lim, the other one is Ju Young Kang. Remember those names, because when everybody was out in the streets last year and this year and so many years before that, because you know George Floyd wasn't the first black man killed by law enforcement. It was these comrades that, as the leaders for Communities United for Police Reform and for the Justice Committee, were organizing on the front lines every single day to make sure that the voices of the voiceless were heard. Every single day. Asian comrades, let's not forget that. They weren't given these titles. They weren't put in these positions by chance. They earned it by being on the front lines every single day. Like I said, the last time that we did this, I remember Bobby telling me on the corner of 125th Street, right in front of the state federal building there, that this reminded him of the Rainbow Coalition. The number of people that were there, and all the people that were there from all different stripes and all different nationalities and all backgrounds. And we know why Fred Hampton was killed. Because of that Rainbow Coalition. That's what threatened the state. When he attempted to bring people together across the board based on class, on a class struggle. Very important. That unity is dangerous to the status quo. It continues to be so. Again, I'm not going to keep on repeating what's been said, but I do want to finish with one thing. We're here against hate. Against Asian hate, against black hate, against Native American hate, all kinds of hate. But there is a space for hate, but I'd rather say righteous indignation. There's always space for righteous indignation. And if so, let us be united in expressing that righteous indignation against white supremacy. Let us be united expressing that righteous indignation against the patriarchy. Let us be united in expressing that righteous indignation against the violence of capitalism. Let us be united in expressing our righteous indignation against poverty, against racism, against homophobia, against transphobia, against hunger, against displacement, against colonialism, against climate catastrophe, and against the billionaires who are always scheming, always dreaming, always coming up with new ways to keep us divided. All power to the people.
Aguatile, aguatile, baila mi bomba, balance. Aguatile, aguatile, a todos hermanos asiáticos con H. Aguatile, aguatile, oye, baila balance. Aguatile, aguatile, con mariposo con H. Aguatile, aguatile.
I want to acknowledge all the women who were a part of organizing this, and yes, they were brothers too, but the force that made today happen was a lot of sisters coming together. Thank you so much. I love having the chance to meet and to work with Diana, Cora, Rishana, poetry, so many people, to work with Minerva Zoya, with Johanna Fernandez. Thank you so much. And today really is about, yes, there's always a space for hate in the form of righteous indignation, and there's a space for our rage, to turn our enrage into outrage. And today is a day of organized outrage. What we're witnessing and what we're experiencing in our community, this violence that we're experiencing, is internalized oppression, where we internalize this bullshit, this colonialism, this imperialism. It's in our bodies, and you know what? It's in our fucking minds. That's right. That's right. So mi gente, down the block, mi gente, in the PJs, mi gente, on the street corner, down there. Yes, we need to be going crazy, but we need to be going crazy in the right way, in the way of community organizing, in the way of we gotta love each other. In the words of Asada, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Otra vez, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. All power to the people. All power to the people. I'm gonna get a little closer to my brother and do a little poetry for y'all, and I want to call on deck Alex Jallo. All right. Ça passe! Liberté! Haïti! All right, and JP Infante. JP on deck, bro. Oh, and Rena Valentin, you're next. All right. This is a piece of a poem, a longer piece. It's called Boomerang, but I'm just gonna give you this little piece. And it's about going crazy in the right way. liberation and independence, and the annihilation of our enemy's power over us, because captivity is contrary to nature. In the universe, there ain't no boundaries. Every child was born to be free. Now let me explain to you Fanon's theory, as my tongue refuses to go weary. Too much truth to tell, so let me tell it well. Boomerang gets thrown to us by the massa, the oppressor, subjector of all this madness, perpetrator of crimes against humanity, assassinator, weaver of poverty. Boomerang, it hits us. Wrapping chain upon chain around our minds, and we internalize, we inhale all the pain which manifests into hate and shame, till we lose our minds, forgetting our morals and our own names. Boomerang, it hits us. Wrapping chain upon chain around our minds, and we internalize, we inhale all the lies, generation upon generation, breeding manifestation upon manifestation, producing an oppressive reality. Barbed wire, lining our horizons, sons, daughters, abuelos, abuelas of Zion. And so we perfect the art of going insane, and we turn on each other like rats in a laboratory experiment gone right. But hold up, hold tight, because just as the oppressed is about to self-destruct, just as you thought all was lost, Boomerang turns back on the oppressor, heads straight for the source, the ruling classes, the colonizers, the looters, the enslavers of the masses. So revolution needs to be about collective action and collective madness, and that's why we need to be going crazy. Frantz Fanon, that's Fran Fanon's theory, boomerang theory. This is Love Poem for My People by Pedro Pietri, and I want to uplift the name of Faye Chang, who was a dear friend of Pedro's and many of us in the Puerto Rican independence community, and she was responsible for my first poem being published. She's an ancestor now, watching over all of us. Yo soy boricua y yo soy budista. Yo canto Namyoho Renge Kyo. And I owe a lot of the self-care practices in my life that has saved my life to the East and to Asian cultures. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a martial artist. I practice Kenwa Kan. I'm a yellow belt, and I'm on my way to being a black belt. And I kick ass. I kick ass. What? Don't even get me started. This is Love Poem for My People by Pedro Pietri. Do not let artificial lamps make strange shadows of you. Do not dream if you want your dreams to come true. You knew how to sing before you was issued a birth certificate. Turn off the stereo this country gave you. It is out of order. Your breath is your promised land. If you want to feel very rich, look at your hands. That is where the definition of magic is located at. Que viva Pedro Pietri. Gracias. I'm going to call
Okay, so I'm gonna call up a speaker who is also a poet, who is also La Reina del Barrio. She's many things to our community. And then Alex, you're on deck. So please give it up for Rina Valentin, La Reina del Barrio.
How's everybody doing today? Give it up for yourselves for being here and showing up for all of us. So I'm Rina Valentin, as Mari mentioned, also known as La Reina del Barrio. And I'm here really to share a piece I wrote that was published in the Breaking Crowns anthology for Puerto Rican women. And we as New Yorkers, we must stand in solidarity with our Asian brothers and sisters because, you know, it's important for all of us to find our similarities within our differences. We must stick together. And so, when Mariposa asked me to be present today, I thought, well, as a spiritualist, as a transcendental meditator, as a Nichiren Daishonin Buddhist, my wish for us today, together, is to raise the vibration of love. Are you with me to raise the vibration of love? I'm not convinced. Are you with me to raise the vibration of love? Nam, to devote oneself. Yoho, the mystic law. Renge, the lotus flower, cause and effect. Yo, everything is a manifestation of the universal mystic law. Nam yo renge kyo. Nam yo renge kyo. Nam yo renge kyo. The world is a big place. Don't hate. Embrace the unity in diversity. Different cultures, different languages. To learn, go to the books to educate. It is our state of mind determining how far or low we go. Life has a lot of fork roads, and three is the magic number. Keeper of the door opens or shuts. Fill the well with knowledge. People, places, and things influence who we become from young to old. We are all one with the same purpose, contributing, making a better place of existence, flowing with love. 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 Nam yo renge kyo. Nam yo renge kyo. Nam yo renge kyo. Here's to leaving things better than we found them. Power to the people! And free Puerto Rico! Te quiero, mariposa.
Good afternoon, community. Oh, no, I'm a teacher. We got to do that one more time. Good afternoon, community. Good afternoon. That was beautiful. And I want to give a really big thanks to Mariposa for pronouncing my last name correctly. All right? That often doesn't happen. So, my name is Alex Jalot, and I am the son of Haitian immigrants. Haitian immigrants that had to flee a dictator that was supported by the United States. So, important for us to understand the context of why we're here. Right? Papa Doc. So, I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I'm a graduate of the public school system. I am a father to a wonderful 3-year-old. And I am currently a public school teacher and have been for about 8 years now. All right? Thank you very much. So, for the last 5 years, I've taught in a high school in the Lower East Side, Chinatown. And so I've come to call Chinatown not only the place that I work, but also the place that is my second home. I love that community, I love our students, and I love the staff that I work with. And so it's important for me to note that my students are diverse. It's important for me to note that my students are Black, they're Latinx, they're also Chinese, they're Filipino, they're from all parts of the world. They're Indian, they're Bengali, and really their families reflect the rich diversity, not just in New York, but that's in Asia. And it's important for us to understand that. Sadly, within my own school, there have been incidents of anti-Asian racism directed at students and also directed at staff, which has happened within the past year within the context of the Trump administration, but also just the context of the United States, which at its core, it's rotten, it's white supremacist, and it's capitalist culture. And so we've come together as a school community to address these issues and to let our Asian students know and our Asian staff members know that we are here with you and that we are in community with you and that we are family. And that it's important for us to stand together, especially in these moments. But so despite all that, despite all the awfulness that's going on, I'm really proud of our community and the way that we've addressed this, and I really want to see this reflected not just in my school community, but also in the wider community at large. White supremacy wishes to divide us. Capitalism wishes to divide us. And so we have to understand that it is in the interest of the rich. It's in the interest of the cops that we don't get along. Right? And that we have to understand that we must unite and that we must stand up to this. And that we have to stand there with our Asian brothers and sisters. And that we need community and grassroots solutions. Right? Because who keeps us safe? Who keeps us safe? So in understanding that, we have to look towards new methods of being able to keep ourselves accountable and to solve the problems and the issues that arise. New methods that don't include them. And what I mean by them is that don't include the police. We don't need them. Cops cause more harm than they do, than any good that they do. The police, anytime that they're called, automatically rely on violent methods. They're not there to help us out. So who do we look to? We have to look to ourselves in order to think of a new horizon, a new world, a new society that we have to build up. So instead of cops, counselors. Instead of cops, racial restorative justice coordinators. Instead of cops, we need social workers. So take that money from the cops. That needs to be our demand. We have to defund immediately. We have to divert the money that is given to them, the overtime that they're getting paid right now. And put that into social workers, put that into counselors, put that into community solutions. So the call that I am going to make right now is for abolition. We must have a world where we do not have them anymore. We must have a world where solutions come from us, from the community that are led by the grassroots. No longer do we need to call them. No longer do we need to rely on them and their violence and their guns in order to solve the problems that we can solve for ourselves. So I will leave with this, that the police will never be the solution, that they create and exacerbate the problems that we have, and that we need to work towards a society that's centered in trust, centered in love, centered in accountability. So abolition now, abolition now, abolition now, abolition now. Thank you very much.
hand for Alex Jallo. And JP Infante on deck. Is JP? JP? I want to give some love and want y'all to give some love with me to Jamal Joseph, who's here with us today. He spoke at 125th. He's a writer, he's an activist, former political prisoner, Black Panther. Let's give some love to Minerva Soya, to Mickey Melendez, who put the call out, like, and to all the young lords that are still with us, organizing with us, and those that are our ancestors now guiding us. We lift them up. Thank you to all our mentors, our revolutionary mentors. I also want to shout out the unions that helped to put this together. 1199, the nurses, New York State Nurses Association, NICENA. They made the Xerox copies. So I want you to shake up to the sky. I'm letting go of that shit right now. It's not mine. It's not ours. I didn't know. And you know what? I am happy to be alive right now. That I can still feel this and read what I just read because I didn't have that detail. And feel something and not be desensitized to it. And be in grief and be outraged and be in mourning and be enraged and indignation that is somebody's grandpa. And we cannot keep doing this. We cannot. Take a deep breath with me. Take a deep breath with me. And breathe. And breathe. We are breathing. We are breathing. We are living and loving. We be making magic happen. We be making revolution happen. Just breathe. Just breathe. It's unimaginable, almost laughable, to think that you think we'd roll over and die or hang our heads and cry after so many losses. Think we'd be whipped, have our fate be dictated by landlords, billionaires, and bosses. Think we'd be stripped of our rights and our dignity. Think again. It's our people and our future that we fight back and fight forward for. Think we'd give in? Give our lives over to a political party coin toss? Think again. This is our people and our future that we fight back and fight forward for. Think we'd give in into a politician's promises and whims? Think again. This is our people and our future that we fight back and fight forward for. Think we'd give in to the politics of a society where we gotta call the police on the police as if that would save us? Think again. We are artists, poets, revolutionaries, educators, courageous people. We be the people, essential people. We be the people, essential people. We be the people, and we keep moving forward, and we keep moving on. We be old school drum beats. We be who we be. We be the music of this people melody. We be the co-authors of our own story. This people happy love poem medley, where we collectively spread our wings and take flight, planting the seeds and digging our heels deep in the trenches, taking a people's stand on this stolen Lenape land, fighting back and fighting forward. We be fighting back and fighting forward, fighting back, fighting back, fighting back, pa'lante, siempre, siempre pa'lante. Gracias.
This is my daughter who is standing beside me with the Asian sign. And while I was here to present my poetry and just to unify us, I failed to mention that my daughter's best friend is Asian American, and they've been growing up together since kindergarten. And so one of my good dear friends is an Asian American mom who I've had the pleasure and the honor of assisting with helping raise her children. And you know, they're like nieces and nephews to me. They spend the night in my home. And so I'm sharing this to say that, you know, we're all from El Barrio. I'm from El Barrio. And the thought of somebody, or if it was one of their grandparents, grandfather, or just one of their elders being hurt because of who they are, I would be devastated. I mean, I'm devastated to begin with, but the whole point of me even bringing this to everyone's attention is that my daughter's being raised not to pay attention to a person's color, the color of their skin, or their racial background, or their cultural practices. You know, if anything, we embrace the beauty of having it accessible to us, in where we're able to learn their culture. We're able to celebrate their culture from an authentic place of learning it directly, not commercially. And so, in saying that, my daughter doesn't want to speak. She's very nervous, but the thing is I bring her to these events so that she can witness what it means to be unified. And so, although we're here, of course, exercising our right to speak, let's get to know our neighbors. Get to know your neighbors. Get to know what they like. Get to know about their culture, you know, because that's where it really derives from. It's like that we're separated, whether we realize it or not. So in addition to being a poet, I'm a television host, and for the past month, since all of this has been occurring, I've been making it my business to highlight Asian American talent. There's this woman named Peach's Tao, and she has this amazing Chinatown mural project going on. So I just want to mention that so that you take the time to go back to Chinatown. Go take some pictures in front of Peach's Tao's murals, because she designed them so that we can start reopening Chinatown and experiencing the diversity that is us, New York. So let us continue marching forward and being the example for the world of what it means to celebrate each other in our differences. All right? So I just wanted to end with that. Once again, power to the people. And I love you, Charmvida. It's their world. It's their world. It's their world. And thank you to Bobby Sanabria. He's been rocking it out. 8-time Grammy nominee right here. Right here, giving his time for the people.
Mariposa, how about a big round of applause for Mariposa, Mickey Melendez, and everybody involved in organizing this? We have many more things in common than differences. We all come from the birthplace of civilization, Africa. So what does that tell you? So we're all brothers and sisters, cousins, etc., nieces, nephews, grandkids, we're all related in one way or another. These are the ties that bind. Our genetic DNA all comes from the true motherland, Africa. So it's really kind of absurd the way sometimes we treat each other. And I'd like to say to the New York City Police Department, some of them are here right now, we need your support too, because there are many great officers in the New York City Police Department, but their hands are tied because of the blue wall of silence, because they're scared. So please, we need you to speak up when you see something that's totally wrong, egregious, unlawful, and takes away the dignity of our human rights. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Ariadna from South Bronx Mutual Aid would like to just say a few words.
Hola, mi gente. Estamos en el barrio. Les voy a saludar en español primero. Hi, guys. Welcome. I'm Ariadna from South Bronx Mutual Aid. We're so happy to see so many of you here, so many marching with us. Thank you so much to Joanna. Thank you so much to the People's Church. Thank you so much to the many people here from mutual aid organizations, from community fridges. We see you in these streets every day, moving food, taking care of each other. We hope that you stop by, take some more food, take some more snacks. Just remember, we take care of us. The way that we take care of us, we help in mutual aids, we help in community fridges, we check in on our neighbors, we advocate for each other. If you know somebody's in need, take care of them. Check in with them. No special requirement needed other than you carrying and advocating with your neighbors together. We love you all. Thank you so much.
Mickey Melendez is not here because he has an emergency in Puerto Rico. But part of what he emailed me today is, are we going to just do a march after a march after a march? That's not really sustainable. Organizing is local, profoundly local, and it's sustained. It's not episodic. We need to connect to the grassroots, as Malcolm X instructed us. We need to have teach-ins about the history of anti-Asian structural violence in the United States and the ways in which it's connected to Black oppression, the ways in which anti-Asian immigration law in the late 19th century determined the Mexican anti-immigration law that exists today. And ultimately, all of this is tied to capitalism. But we need to figure out how to lever our power day to day so that we can achieve change. What we say on the show is we're rebuilding the world together. And ushering in a new day.
Ushering in a new day.
Right here in Harlem with Jamal Joseph and Minerva, in the spirit of our freedom fighters, the people who fought last time to transform the world and our society. We gotta keep that torch going. We need to light it up, and this is just a call for all of us. This is truly everybody. Everybody's in the house on this Sunday, and we need to figure out how to organize at the local level, and it needs to be sustained. It can't be whenever there's crisis. So that's what's up. I'm just honored to be here. That poem that you just heard, theorizing Fanon, took it home for me. Better than a million speeches, understanding the kind of colonized mentality and frustration that we turn inward and vomit out against our own people. We can do better as oppressed people, as exploited people, and we really, truly have an assignment, and that's to rebuild society anew. So thank you for coming. This is amazing. It's just incredible to be in unity with all of you, all of our Asian brothers and sisters who joined us
in the hood, in Harlem and East Harlem. Thank you.
And JP, ¿qué pasó con JP Infante? JP Infante. Se fue. All right. So we're gonna end with the Asada chant. First, we're gonna say it really low, in a whisper, for only our ancestors to hear us. And then we're gonna say it in a voice for ourselves. And then we're gonna say it loud, really loud for the world. Okay? It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. All power to the people. Pa'lante. Que viva Puerto Rico libre. Free all political prisoners. Free Mumia. Free them now. Thank you. God bless you.
Everybody, clap your hands, clap your hands. Repeat after me. Peace and prosperity and positive energy be unto you. Nos vemos en la próxima.